Good afternoon, and welcome to another woebegone episode of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. Now here's your wretched and soul-wrenching host, Voice of Doom. Hello. I wasn't going to do a diatribe this weekend because I did two good ones, and I don't want them to be buried because they were pretty all-encompassing and scary, and I thought that they wouldn't be allowed, but I realized that freedom of speech still exists, and I also will say that certain platforms don't want things on them, I think it's their right to say no. And YouTube's very fair. I'm fine with them. And so I wasn't going to do a diatribe, but then I saw the Three Musketeers on the TV set, which I call this computer. It's not a TV, but I saw them, and they were giving a speech about our response toward the calamitous border situation we have going on. And they weren't talking about the U.S.-Mexico border. They were talking about a border which is sacred, sacrosanct, a sovereign nation since 1991, rich history of their territorial integrity. Now, I had to comment on stuff because it's 1939. I've been telling you for a while now, and I got to get my thoughts together because there's a lot. Not a policy wonk, but I'm going to do some wonking here. I looked up NATO just to check it out. You know, I'm familiar with its history, but it seems like the NATO organization is way far away from the North Atlantic. I think it was put together as a buffer toward the Soviet satellites, which were on the east side of Europe, trying to avert a Third World War. Now, it's funny because I looked up stuff just to check out some stuff on that, and Finland and Finland and Sweden are not in NATO, even though they're very close to the North Atlantic. So you'd think they'd be people that would be in that alliance, but they're not. Wonder why. Yugoslavia, or whatever it is now, Serbia, what have you, they haven't been allowed to come in. They're landlocked. But Turkey is in NATO, and they're nowhere near the North Atlantic, so figure that out. And after the Soviet Union fell apart, I think we made some promises that we wouldn't get border countries in NATO, but we do have a lot of the old Soviet satellites in NATO. And when one person in one country says, and he could be some bum in the street, I think that Ukraine should join NATO. That is a pretext. That is a pretext to send some troops to the border of the Ukraine, because if they join NATO, then they're going to be a threat. You can't have NATO countries on the border with Russia with their bombs and missiles. So you send troops. And then countries decide that Ukraine might be under threat, so they send bombs and missiles. And then they send more troops, and then more bombs and more missiles. And then they call it a standoff, and they say we need diplomacy. Because I saw this Lloyd Austin, and he looks like a Lloyd Austin. Totally out of his depth. He's probably around my age, so I know he's incompetent because I grew up with these people. And I saw them as they were growing up, and I know they're not capable. He was with General Millstone, and you look at him, he's a brick wall. He's just a brick wall of metals. His eagle hawk nose, eyes, looks like he's tough. He has no business being there, and I'll tell you why. Because he's either incompetent or has no integrity. And if you use a flowchart of human behavior, you would say he was the chairman of the joint chiefs, and they are joint chiefs. They're running a gin joint. If you look at the two options of Afghanistan, you will say he agreed with the procedure in which you remove all the troops first and then worry about the assets and all the weaponry later. Or abandon the weaponry. It's a good plan. Which means he's incompetent and shouldn't be on the stage. Shouldn't be anywhere near there. The other side of the flow chart is he was against that whole plan. And if he was, then he shouldn't be there because he has no integrity to be there. An honorable person would resign probably in August, late August, and say, I disagree with this whole thing. I resign. I'm sorry. I'm out. But he didn't, so he has no integrity. So he doesn't have any business being on the stage. So they talk diplomacy about the whole situation. And they always talk diplomacy. And diplomacy means we'll give you this if you don't do that. We'll give you this if you don't do that. So it's like, you're a threat. Please don't do it and we'll give you something. And Petri dish is not really in the picture. He's already done enough damage. He's already done his share of destruction because he kind of put Russia in a position where they're, able to control energy for their areas. I don't want to get too deep into it. Everybody knows it. Do your own stupid homework. Keystone, Nord Stream. Everybody knows it's all wrong. So I will tell you that, first of all, we have 3 weeks before we have to worry about anything because we talk weather conditions, okay, fine, but let's talk about a mutual non-aggression pact going on between two major superpowers, and I will say superpowers, because I don't judge it on economy, I judge it on their weapons. They got a mutual non-aggression pact, and that will break down probably in a year or two. But for now, no incursions will be happening over the next 2.5 weeks. Allow the Berliners to have their Olympics, which nobody should watch, and let them show the world how great they are. And after everybody packs up and is allowed to go home, then the conflagration will start. And it will start by an attack. And they talk, how many troops are we sending to Poland? How many troops? The media is very concerned about how many troops. They don't want to see any war involving the United States where people are actually getting killed and bombing each other, because that won't be good for their business, will it? No, we can talk to media. There's a million different angles. There's the military-industrial. America's at peace. We're at war with no one, but that puts them out to pasture, so they need to keep building stuff. And just because America is not at war doesn't mean that they can't build bombs for someone else. It's very simple. They want to keep their businesses going. Northrop, Raytheon, I don't know, Rockwell. I could name a bunch of them. So, military-industrial complex is in the picture. So they're trying to stoke the flames without having it get too much where the trees start burning. They're just trying to stoke it up so that we can keep on building bombs and keep living off our military economy, which we've done for 70 years. And we'll suffer no ill will. No bad karma could possibly come to a country that's lived on a military economy, based their economy on war for 70 years, and helped others go to war. But there's more to say with foreign policy, because if you look at history, this Putin guy he's not gonna send troops marching, he's not gonna start bombing, sending missiles into cities. Not gonna happen. At least not right now. The first thing that's gonna happen is you put a lot of troops on the border and you intimidate the country. And you realize that, just like Schicklgruber did, a lot of the people in that country want to be with Russia. Just like the Sudetenland and all that. Russian-speaking people. They still remember the good old days of the Soviet Union when things were very, orderly. And so, just like Crimea, if you look at history, way back in 2009 or whatever, he marched in and people cheered him on. It's like the Auschwitz or whatever they called it, Austria. 39 is happening all over again. And we're going to be out because nobody trusts us and nobody should trust us. But that doesn't mean we won't get our own little surprise attack somewhere down the line. Because when the big conflagration starts heating up in one area and another area wants to stay out of it, then something comes from their blind side. And just look at 1939 through 1941, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, the pressure is mounting. There's a lot of people in the country that wouldn't mind being Russian, and then you get somebody in power that is in that cadre, and you get an ally. The Ukraine is an ally of Russia. And it happens with Belarus, and that's why they have troops there. And Crimea, and if you look at history, which I don't know anything about, I just come up with my own opinions from what snippets of information are here and there, but that's what's going to happen. So if the Ukraine says, we want to be more on the westernized side, we want to be more like, I don't know, France, England, whatever countries, then there might be a problem because everything's coming to a head. And somebody else is lurking in the wings wondering what's going to happen with all this because they have their own little Rhineland off the coast, which they wouldn't mind taking and take with impunity and say it was ours all along. And when there's a lot of chaos, destruction, and calamity and catastrophe, and things tend to just get bigger and bigger. They expand. So that is foreign policy in a nutshell. And speaking of nutshells, the three guys said nothing, but they stoked the flames very subtly. They think they're subtle, but they stoked the flames for their buddies in the military industrial. It's very obvious to anybody who's lived here for a long time. You can see it. They're so obvious about it now because they're my age and they have no finesse. They can't do things in a subtle way. Oh, Millstone is older than me. Like, God, I hope so. I mean, I don't know. It's got to be like 80. So that's it. I could talk more about foreign policy, and I know I forgot stuff, but I'm reaching that point of the end. And it is the end. My dear old friend, the end. So I'll leave you on that happy note. Maybe you can think about it. You probably know it already. I didn't tell you anything new. But I enjoyed it. my last 2 or 3 have been really good to me. I love myself. Have a good afternoon.